Oh, yeah, do it right now. Keep on me, girl.
I'm going to move the report of the nominating committee to
They
here.
may wish they were done.
And so what I'm going to.
I didn't expect it because I know I was
For
late, so I.
nominations for chair.
Okay.
So you can mention.
All right, so where do I sign
did,
it?
how
Right
you
here?
did it, and then
And tell her what it
the
means.
nominating committee nominates
Should we wait
blank
till after
for
this?
chair.
Okay.
And then I'll ask for other nominations. If there are none, I'll close the nominations and we'll vote.
Okay.
And we'll go back to vice chair. Vice chair.
Vice chair.
Right.
Vice chair, not
Not
right.
co-chair.
Vice chair.
And do the same routine. Then I'll recognize you, I'll open the nominations, recognize you, and then just a little bit.
Well, it's not clear.
So yeah, that'd be
I don't know if you have a chance to read this, but Deb and I spoke with Craig and the powers that be about the steps we
So
have
most
to go
participation.
Okay.
and we're proposing a sort of two-pronged approach to
Okay.
try to cut through some of the red tape.
Even if it
Sounds
is
a good idea.
Give them
So we're
a
gonna
Well, the
Okay.
thing is,
Cool.
if
Right
you
and it's
put it inside voter,
Mary, you're on
can
this,
take it
right?
out.
This committee, do you?
I mean, I mean, that's the thing about.
I wasn't asked.
perpetuity. You
but
can't do
yes,
anything
yes.
that's interesting.
I wasn't sure if there was like a formality or something. I got your email and read through it.
Since the theory of why everything
Yeah,
happened is
I think that's
because,
great. So do you meet, when do you meet?
We meet informally, and it's not a, Jonah wants to be on it too. It's
Great.
not a committee meeting that we have to publicize because it
Because they feel
is,
bad
the
about
business
saying
we do is at the commission.
I didn't feel bad about it.
So we can meet wherever we want to,
Well, as
whenever we want to.
community apparently.
I think as a community,
When
people were not as aware of the issues. And they saw the word park
I
and they
think
thought,
people were.
I'll never vote against a park.
Especially in this town, because, you know, and that's gonna be a,
things to really do
you know,
the program
here, I'm gonna
robustly
show my
is to get
you don't have.
youth involved in a project, a thing, you know, and we threw out some starting ideas. They're not
Yeah, I would,
super inspiring, something that can be done
well,
instantly
let's
that they
find out
don't
where
have to prepare for a
Well,
while.
I
Or
actually
maybe
wondered, my
something
first
that they
thought
could
was
prepare
somewhere
for a
else.
little bit, but not
No, there are other where else.
anything.
Take a record ball, but.
Talking about how they use Instagram,
I'm good, but I'm
take
willing.
pictures and do stuff and insert themselves in it or light it in a funny way and see it through, so we thought maybe have a
I
break.
kind of big burgers, taught us nothing. It said anything.
I left the praying thing with.
That may be the most inspiring thing in the world, which is saying so
So
much,
is
but
your,
yet
is
still,
your,
there
report
wasn't a lot
in
of
here, or
competition.
what's on the agenda for today?
Denise said it
That
is,
was
I basically gave just a summary, that's all I was
I
gonna
have
talk
been
about,
studying,
is the summary, because I
Okay.
don't think I need to go through every point and say what they said out.
Okay,
Just
so tonight, just follow your lead. Or is
I'll
there
just
a,
report on it, that's all we
Got
have
it.
to do.
Cool.
You can comment on things and we'll have discussion about the report and I'll ask people for suggestions and ideas and this is something that the commission wants us to pursue. And so hopefully there'll be a general direction that, yeah, it sounds good.
okay,
So these are the committee members, so we do it.
I'd like to bring the meeting of the Ann Arbor Public Art Commission to order. It is November 7th at 7 o'clock, and we are in the basement of City Hall. I'd first ask Mr. Hoopy to read the roll call to make sure we have a quorum. Mr. Hoopy.
Yes, John Kotarski,
Here.
Allison Buck.
Here.
Connie Brown,
Here,
Jonah Copy?
Copy.
Copy. All
Here.
right, I apologize.
No problem.
Colleen Crawley,
Here.
David Issa,
Here.
Deborah Mexicott,
Here, and I can be Deb.
Mary Beefles,
here.
David Zinn,
Yep.
Chip Smith. You have a quorum.
Excellent. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. So
Did we want to introduce our new member?
I will as soon as we get an agenda. So
So moved.
it's been moved. Is there a second to the agenda? And Commissioner Mexicott has seconded. I would like to add 2 items under new business. Nominating committee report before the election of officers, and the adoption of meeting dates that you have a copy of attached to your material after the election of officers. Are there any other items to add to the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the agenda as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We now have an agenda. I would like to take the chair's prerogative and welcome some new members. We have some freshly minted members, Jonah Copy and Mary Thiefels, and I'm going to ask each of them if they could to introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about why you would like to join our merry band of merry makers.
Sorry. Sure.
So,
Yeah.
Mary, please.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you. I'm very excited to join the Art Commission. I am a public artist, born and raised in Ann Arbor. I have watched the commission over the last couple decades and through its evolution and changes, and I feel very passionate about art in our community. And I also like to bring forth honesty and an opinion, and so I hope to be able to bring an artist voice to this commission and also an aesthetic voice. So I'm excited to see where this goes. I work at Neutral Zone as the art director. So I work with youth in our community in a lot of creative capacities, and I run a company called Treetown Murals.
Thank you, and welcome.
Thank you.
Jonah?
Thank you. Really excited to be here also. My name is Jonah Copy, and appreciate the opportunity to be here. I've definitely been looking for different ways to get involved in city government here in Ann Arbor. Originally from San Francisco, and I've been here in Ann Arbor for about 12 years. I have a background in the arts, however, I work primarily in real estate and property management currently, but definitely looking for ways to get back into the arts and bring more art into public spaces here in Ann Arbor also. Thanks so much for having me.
Excellent, and welcome, welcome. While we are introducing newly minted art commissioners, I would also like to share a conversation I had earlier today with one of our newly minted council members, Ali Ramwali. And he is here with us today, and he is willing to volunteer to be our council liaison officer. In the past, we had Chip Smith, and Chip's schedule has been conflicted many times with ours, and Ali has been willing to step up. I must say that Ali and I are friends, that I did not support him in the primary, but I am delighted that, that's correct, that however, Ali has been willing to volunteer to be on it. That doesn't mean he will be appointed, but I feel strongly enough that he will bring a voice to our commission and a liaison, in particular to folks on the council who may not have been that welcoming to supporting taxpayer-funded artwork. I spoke with Ali earlier today, and we talked about that, and he sees an opportunity to build a bridge, that we can better understand the point of view of council members that might have a unique viewpoint, and they, the council, might be able to better appreciate what we're doing. So with that, I don't know, Ali, if you would like to say anything. There's no reason to, but if you'd like to.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice. It's pretty awesome to be standing up in front of you guys right now, and ladies. John, appreciate the introduction, and yeah, me and John go back years, as many of you around here know me from the restaurant and around town, and so I'm the new council member. So, like, we have a couple new members on this commission. You know, I'm excited to join because I've known Mary for over 20 years, and Jonah for the last 5 or 6, and many of you others in this room right now. And I'm pretty supportive of the arts. If you know a little bit about me, I do like to support it when I can, and so it's exciting. I know in our community, we've had a struggle with it, and there's a lot of misconceptions and misinterpretations, and we've tripped up, but that doesn't mean we can't start over again and learn from the mistakes in the past and go forward and find ways to continue and celebrate the art. I think it's a reflection of us as a community and civilization and humanity. It's a reflection of our values and who we are. So I think it's important that we get behind the arts and, you know, like Mary said earlier, have an honest discussion and an honest debate. And that's what I want to do on City Council. So, you know, I know there's a lot of great people with their hearts and minds in the right place. So hopefully we can get policy and make it a priority to make sure that we continue to celebrate the arts in Ann Arbor, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I am going to be writing to the mayor indicating that my support for the nomination, and if any one of you would like to do so, I'm sure it would be welcome. With that, I would like to move into the next item on our agenda, which is public comment. So we do have members of the public, and we would encourage you to tell us anything you would like to. This is the time to do it. You've got 3 minutes or so. We're pretty flexible. Would any of you like to avail yourself of that opportunity, or? Yeah, go ahead. Would you like to?
It's good practice.
Yeah, it's good practice. This is what they send you to these meetings to do, is to get up, a student.
Tell us a story. Tell us a joke.
Okay, just tell us your name and your grade level.
For all of us. Some of us.
I'm Gabriella. I'm a junior at Skyline High School, and I'm taking Gov right now, so can't wait to do my duties.
Why did you pick this art commission meeting as opposed to the planning or, you know?
Well, I actually had some friends who went to a planning meeting, and they said it was pretty boring. So art's more interesting. So I decided to come here.
Excellent. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Sir, would you like to? Tell us your name, your grade level, and why you're here.
Hello, I'm Ian. I'm it's a little wobbly. I'm a sophomore at Skyline High School, and I chose this specifically because, similarly to Gabriella, planning meetings are not very interesting. It's like a sleep podcast. But I'm hoping that I can possibly contribute to this somehow if I find something that I have something that I can contribute.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. We are starting an initiative, by the way, for you students, that we want young voices. So know that, and there are folks here, I think Deb Mexicott and Connie Brown and Mary Thiefels. So any of those, and Jonah, as any of those commissioners, if you want to drop your name off, I'm sure it won't happen tomorrow, but get it in the mix. So very good, glad you're here. And glad you think we're not as boring as those folks that kicked us out of our spot.
We'll try not to be. Well, I was going to say the night is young. So.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Shorter.
That's right.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
right. So the next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have minutes attached. These are the minutes of our September 5th meeting. And once, if anyone has had an opportunity to read these, if the chair would welcome a motion to accept them as presented. Commissioner Brown has moved to accept them, a second, and Commissioner Crowley. Are there any deletions or additions? Is there anyone that needs a little more time to read them? All those in favor of accepting the minutes of the September 5th, 2018 meeting as presented signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, the minutes have been approved. The next item on the agenda is new business. The first item of new business is the election of officers, but I've asked that the nominating committee report be sort of bundled with the election of officers. So what I am doing now is opening the nominations for. Oh, David.
I just want to, does everyone on the commission know that we're not having a special presentation? I think that was on the earlier agenda, and I don't know if everyone saw the email that we're not doing that, that it's not happening.
No lasers.
No lasers, sorry.
Wait, was that the special?
Oh, now we're gonna
That
go
was.
over.
I know.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, let me explain. This was put on the agenda and it was removed at the request of Mike Gold. And Mike Gold originally is a laser artist in town, has done the full moon projections and a number of others that he wanted to project lasers on Plaza Tower during the art fair. And that's what he was presenting to us. However, he has decided that he did not have enough time with conflicting other projects, so he has asked us to remove him for that presentation.
Because he's delaying the project, not because he's too busy to come talk to us.
Exactly, that, and he, as well as all artists, have been welcome to come and talk to us if they want, even if they don't have a particular project. And I've told him when he has time, please let us know, and we'll put him on the agenda for presentation. So does anyone have a question about that, why it was on and why it's not on now? Excellent. Thank you, David. So now, the chair, I'm going to open up the nominations for chair. And in doing so, I'm going to ask Commissioner Crowley, who's the chair of the nominating committee, to explain briefly what her committee did and what her nomination, the committee's nomination for chair is. Commissioner Crowley.
Sure. So just to recap, the nominating committee was myself, John Kotarski, and Deb Mexicott. And we started by sending out a survey to all the commissioners, and we got pretty good response. And the number one question we asked was, what do you feel are the top concerns facing the APAC, the Art Commission? And our second follow-up was, what, reflecting on that, what are the traits that you would be looking for in a commissioner? Some of the answers to number one, the top, sorry, I'm using my phone. It's one of the few things I didn't print out for this meeting. So we heard that promoting the city's art collection, but even before that, cataloging it, identifying it, really getting a handle on what the city already owns and has on display, and understanding where they're located, getting the word out. Promoting youth involvement came up multiple times. Having youth involved and giving feedback on public art selections and being involved in all sorts of matters of that. We heard that even just understanding our role and the process, having a better understanding of what, making sure we know all the processes that APEC goes through, and knowing who answers the correct questions, who's got the information, how do we get things put forward. So those were some of the things on people's mind that came back to us, and continuing with our CIP recommendation process, which our committee's been very strong in doing that came up, and then even looking at private monies for public art. So these were some of the things bounced around and education, sorry, I almost forgot about that one. Making the community and the Ann Arbor visitors highly aware of our public art collection, and whether it's through online maps and opportunities, things like that. The traits that people were asking for was organizational abilities and skill politically, time to do these things, team building skills, and reach into the wider community. There's just a whole series of things. So our committee reviewed all of that information. We met together to talk about what we had heard. The third question was, which, based on those answers that you provided in 1 and 2, who would you recommend for chair? And I'm happy to report that there was a very strong, almost unanimous recommendation for Allison Buck as chair, and our committee would like to nominate Allison to be the chair.
Excellent. Is there a second for that nomination? Anyone like to second that? Commissioner Esau seconded. Any other nominations for chair? What we're going to do is we're going to nominate folks for chair, and then we're going to take a vote, and then we're going to nominate for vice chair. So you can nominate yourself if you would like, if you can get one of your friends to second it, of course. But are there
Enemies.
or enemies, exactly. That it's, yeah, you're right. Yeah, force you into this position. Any other nominations for chair? I see none, therefore I'm going to close the nominations for chair. I'm going to ask you, you have ballots in front of you, these blank slips of paper, to write down the name of your vote for chair.
Do I vote?
And you can vote for yourself, yes. And Mr. Hoopy, if you would mind.
I'll have the secret ballot box here.
Secret ballot bowl.
Oh, I thought we were gonna use your hat.
He has his own special way of doing things.
The suspense is, yeah.
The suspense is building.
We're trying to make our meeting really exciting.
That's what the audience comes for.
Real nail biter.
You don't get this in the planning commission.
Yeah, I just don't know
Well, Mr. Hoopy is, well, let's just,
Sit a second, I think we'll have the results.
we'll set a second and have the results. Whoever is elected, whoever that stranger might be, will take over January 1st. The reason we're doing it now is we're required by ordinance to have a new chair by January 1st. Oftentimes, this would happen in our January 1st meeting. We've decided to have that election the month before. Or I take it back. We would have that normally in December, but we're having it every other month, so it means that it's in this month. Is that clear? I'm okay. So in any event, that was just giving you enough time. Mr. Hoopy.
The election results are in, and by a large margin, Allison Buck is your new chair.
Excellent. Most appropriate. Very well. Thank you. And good luck.
Thank you.
And I'm tickled. Yeah, congratulations is what I really meant to say. So I'm going to open the nominations for vice chair, and I'm going to ask, again, Commissioner Crowley to present the committee's recommendation for vice chair.
So on both the question on chair and vice chair, we had placed the multiple, plural, if you had more than one person. So commissioners all submitted multiple names to us for vice chair. And we also asked a follow-up question, are you personally interested in stepping up in a leadership role as either chair or vice chair? So we knew in advance, because of the answers to that question, we knew in advance who would accept the nomination. So as it turned out, 4 commissioners received a very high number of nominations or recommendations from this survey. Of those 4, 3 had answered the question that they were not willing at this time to be a chair or vice chair. And so we debated a little bit on this, but we are nominating Deb Mexicott, who is one of our newest members, but she was of the 4 that got high number of nominations. She was the one who was willing to step forward.
I think I missed that question somehow.
The highest of the 4. The highest of the 4, I might add.
Yes, she did.
Highest willingness.
Yes, very good. So the nominating committee would like to put forward Deb Mexicott as our vice chair.
Excellent. Is there a second to that nomination?
I second.
And Allison Buck seconds it. Anyone else would like to nominate someone for vice chair? Again, you can nominate Mr. Hoopy. He's here all the time.
I can't.
You can't?
I'm not a
Oh,
member.
okay, okay.
Ex officio, I think.
Ex officio. Seeing that there are no other nominations, I would again like you to take your ballot and write on it your choice for vice chair.
I'll click it in reverse order this time.
Well, Mr. Hoopy is collecting this and tabulating it. Let me just speak about the process. It seems almost ridiculous that we only have one person nominated and that we go to secret ballot and so forth. I think the most important thing is exactly what Colleen's committee did, in fact. It's polling all of us and finding out, in effect, it was kind of what we were doing at our retreat, is that what's your vision? And given that vision, what kind of traits do you really think are appropriate for our leadership at this time? Not that other people weren't good leaders. And then given that, who? The great thing about it is what Colleen detailed, is that there were a lot of folks that I thought, God, they're going to be perfect. But they indicated that they didn't want to. So it was very useful to be able to have all of this information with this committee and kind of lay it out. And once you see all of that, selecting a leader that really is kind of in sync with everyone's viewpoint is very important. So this is something that we had just been doing for 2 years before. We would meet, and it would just be someone would throw a name out, and they go, oh, I don't know if I want to. So this isn't the only way to do it. But I certainly have found great success in this for the past 2 years. It's going to be up to our new chair to choose to do that or to do something differently. But I just wanted to explain how that's happened and the value of it. It really is kind of a team-building sort of effort. It gives everyone a chance to discuss and do these kinds of things. So, Mr. Hoopy, do you have...
The accounting and auditing firm of Hupy has looked at the results and is happy to report that Deb Mexicott is your selection for Hupy.
Awesome. Well, it is the year of the woman, and I am tickled that we have 2 women heading our commission. So this will, your terms will begin for the January meeting. I will take a moment and maybe write some ideas that I've kind of learned over the 3 years and share with you, and you can use them for whatever you want. Scrap paper would be just fine. But so I congratulate both of you, and I'm very, very excited to take my seat next to David and watch him doodle. Because I've been really... No, you're working, exactly. Exactly. So we have a new chair and a vice chair. The next item under new business is...
jump in?
Yes.
Just for those of you new to the board, and especially in the audience, we should say that John has served the 2 years that he's allowed to serve, so that's why his name did not come up in this. And we should also be thanking you for a lot of work over the last 2 years, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you. He follows me around to meetings to say those kinds of things. But no, thank you very much, David. Thank you. And another thing that I did use both David and Allison as kind of an informal executive committee, so that it was a shared kind of thing. I know that's been discussed, and it's up to the new leadership of if and how you want to develop your own kind of team. So back at you, David. I mean, this couldn't have been done without, without David. And I mean that in a real way, because I really believe that his committee is the single most important committee on our commission. It is about how do you enhance municipal construction. And it's a litany, and I say it for the three people who haven't heard it before, is that the city builds $50 million worth of stuff every single year. And that we are charged with finding a way to encourage or to determine which of those projects might be enhanced by creative construction. And if Ann Arbor can find a way to do that, it can really expand the identity of our town as being the creative capital of the region. So, and that's what David has done, and you just can't sit around in a smoke-filled room and pick it, so you have to have criteria, has to be a process and all that, and David has taken at least, a year to develop criteria, another year to develop a process, and actually to do it, and so now we have a blueprint of how Ann Arbor can actually identify potential. It's now up to council to take advantage of that advice. That has a different calculus to it, and we respect that, but at least they will have the benefit kind of our advice. So any credit for what the commission has been able to do over the last 3 years really is shared by David and his committee. So it's my prerogative to do that. It's the last meeting, so I can kind of but thank you for the kind words, David. So we're to the acceptance of meeting dates. You have attached is a series of meeting dates. We are by our ordinance or bylaws, we have to list going forward in the year, at the first of the year, all of the dates that we are going to meet. And you have a list that was compiled by Vanita Harrison, and we need to accept that or change that. So is there a motion to accept the meeting dates as presented? Motion. Commissioner Mexicott, and is there a second? Commissioner Brown. Is there discussion on these meeting dates? Commissioner Brown.
I would like to suggest for the commission to consider to take the July 10th meeting and either have a March, April, May meeting or a September, October, November meeting rather than that week, because that's always around 4th of July and there seems to be difficulty. And there's a lot more going on, and hopefully the soon to become very important youth committee that will rival the CIP. Kids are in school during that time too. So that's also a time where it might be easier for that area of the commission to get stuff done. But
Nice.
what are your thoughts?
Excellent, excellent point. And I might add that we have been in the past bumped out of the council chambers on Wednesdays because of commission. Yes, Mr. Hoopy.
Two items. One, if the art commission wants to combine the meetings as suggested, let us know if you either can do it tonight or shortly thereafter, so we can look for an open date in the council chambers. And secondly, the Wednesday, November 6th meeting, I think we should be rescheduling that to Thursday the 7th, because that will be a post-election Wednesday, and we'll get bumped out of there again. Even though we are on the agenda already, they have seniority for the chamber over us. So just those two.
Well, let me suggest this, that this is not in concrete. It's required that we have this, and we can change it. So even though we put this in place now, in January, we can amend this moving forward. So rather than maybe we could have a chance a couple of months to think about these kinds of things.
I will not be here January 3rd, just so.
Well, that's one good reason we might want to change that.
But you're trying to move the meeting just for me.
Well, that one we would probably need to change.
We need to change that tonight. So you're not going to be here January 3rd. Can, Vanita, can you get us a replacement like in the next minute? No.
No, she can't, because she can't see
So-
the
Doesn't know that-
council chambers.
When will you be here?
I will be back on the 8th.
So the 10th would work, that Wednesday?
Ninth would
The
be
10th is a,
Wednesday.
yeah, 9th is Wednesday, 10th is Thursday. Either of those 2 days would work, the 9th or the 10th.
Okay, then
Anyone have a conflict with the 9th or the 10th of January?
10th is my birthday, so either way.
Well, yeah, we'll
Well,
celebrate.
Mr. Ramwali may bring some baklava, you know? Hey, yes.
Carry it everywhere?
I knew there was a good reason. The pistachio, if you would. Yes,
So
sorry.
we are looking at Wednesday.
The 9th, or
I'm
Thursday
saying
the
that for
10th.
Vanita.
Can we authorize both of them in
Yeah,
case
let's
one
authorize
works?
Wednesday and Thursday.
Sure.
Let's
We'll,
do that.
we'll let you know which one works.
Okay.
And the thing in, July, I'm not suggesting that if we could do a different day in July, but that's always around the 4th, and it just seems.
I agree, I
there's a lot
totally
of
agree.
People
conflicts.
are out of town usually.
Yeah,
Commissioner
that's a
Mexico.
great one.
Yeah, I might argue, and I don't know enough about the workings of the way this council works with city council and the like, but I think a July meeting is always problematic around vacations and everything else. It seems to me that if we had a June meeting, does the fiscal year turn on June 30th?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
So it seems like maybe a June meeting would
Excellent.
fill that in. It might also include the school if we do have more youth. So I might look to a June meeting to finish out the year. It might be a good time to have year-end reports and the like.
Could you give us a specific date in June, just so we could have something to talk about?
Yeah, I could look.
David has his calendar, something in the end of June.
First.
June.
5th.
June 5th?
5th, 12th, 19th, and 26th are Wednesdays.
Well,
The 5th or the 12th would still be during
School.
school.
so you're recommending something during school, 5th?
I mean, I think anything in June would probably be fine, but if
Let's
our,
just put the 5th.
if May 8th is our previous one, then the 5th or the 12th seems like it would be that month later.
So I'm just picking the 5th. Any objection to the 5th? This may all change, but we're at least,
It's Mary's birthday.
well, more baklava, you know?
What, of May?
No,
June.
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 June is your,
May is safe.
the 23rd is mine, and you could just deliver to my house, Ollie, if you'd like.
Got all these dates written down.
Yeah. So we have January 9th replacing January 3rd.
Or the 10th.
Yes.
Okay, or the 10th. And we're canceling July 10th and replacing it with June 5th.
Or 6th. Or 12th, or
Depending
13th.
on the calendar, Vanita's ability to find something.
Or 12th. Are there any other changes? Are you getting this, Vanita? Okay. Any other changes? So we now have January 9th or 10th, March 6th, May 8th, June 5th or 12th, September 11th, November 6th.
No, I think we
November
decided to move to
Oh.
the 7th.
Okay, and November 7th. Any other changes? All those in favor of the schedule as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We now have our meeting schedule, sort of. And we will be notified, Vanita, you'll notify us of which of those will be. And again, this isn't etched in concrete, so we can change this as we,
Maybe at the January meeting we can confirm.
that's correct.
David has-
Question, when there's a good time. I was just thinking about, last year, we worked through some revisions to our bylaws, which I think went to the city attorney and went into a black hole where I've never heard about them again. So one of the changes that we made was that we were allowed to meet only every other month instead of every month, which we haven't done for many years.
Oh,
So it would be good to get those finalized at
Yeah,
some point.
I will follow up as see where they're at.
Okay.
Their process would be to take them to, they go to city council. I don't know if they get voted on or just merely filed
Okay.
after city council sees them.
Which may be why you haven't heard back, they were filed.
Well, I mean, I've worked enough with the city attorney to know that that's just,
No,
That's just a
we'll
trash can.
follow, we'll follow.
I might add a little bit, it wasn't that we were allowed, it's that we were required to meet. In the old ones, we were required to meet every month. The new bylaws recommended that we would be required to meet every other month.
At
It
least.
doesn't mean we couldn't meet every month,
yes.
but we would be required to meet at least every other month.
We will follow up and report on it.
We're also required to have a plan for the year by February. It has always been my intention to have a retreat before to gather that information for the plan. Some of what Colleen's committee has done is really brought out some of those issues. I think a retreat still would be good, however. That retreat, in order to make it precede the plan, doesn't have to, would need to probably be scheduled for sometime in January. So it could, in fact, be the meeting that we just meet in a work session meeting and make that our January meeting, or you could make it separate, and that's up to Allison and Deb. But I bring that to everyone's attention.
Wouldn't that not be a pertinent thing to talk about tonight and get it on the calendar
Yeah,
rather than,
I agree.
let's.
So what is your thinking, Chair and,
How long ago did we do our last retreat? It doesn't seem that long ago.
well, we
Is it
did
really
it,
that long ago?
well, we scheduled it for February, there was a snowstorm, and I think it edged into the 1st of March. But I would recommend, in order to get this, we're required by ordinance, they're not gonna arrest us if we don't, however, it'd be nice to just follow the ordinance. We're required by February 1st to submit a plan in writing.
Yeah.
So in order to do that, we need to get together to plan a plan.
Early January or in December, really.
Right.
to get
December
Should
might,
we use our January meeting for that?
well, maybe the January meet in December for the retreat, and then you assemble the plan, and the plan is approved in January to be presented in February. But I want the new chair and vice chair to sort of lead us into this. Any ideas?
Well,
ladies?
this is democracy, so people if want to meet and talk about goals and things to come up with a plan, that's probably the only way to actually come up with a plan, unless we just, Deb and I, make something up.
Yeah.
Which we
When?
don't want to do.
When would you like to have that? I'm calling it a retreat or a work session. Would
In
you-
the past, what we've gone, we meet at like a library or something, that has to be at a public space so people
Correct.
can come in and attend.
It's a
And
public
we
meeting.
talk about what we should be focused on, which a lot of what you guys did in the nominating committee could act as a baseline for that. But frankly, the committee I'm on, our work is pretty much just rolling over if we want to continue those goals. I think
Yeah,
your work would be.
most of the goals from last year would just roll over.
Yeah,
'cause we
and
had-
so it might almost be like a reintroduction to you guys on what we talked about at our last one, what our goals are. You guys could add to those ideas and
Get
things.
some new input from new members.
Exactly. Be a short meeting, it wouldn't have to be that long.
Do you want to have that in December or January?
December's pretty
December.
busy for people, but do you guys think you can do it?
Oh, yeah.
I'm here. Okay.
Most of my December is
Earlier
already
December.
spoken for, but I'll
Well,
tell
let-
that day and I'll try and get in there.
Can you toss off some dates so Benita can look for a meeting space?
Let's see what Colleen can do.
In the past, we met for like 4 hours. We at least scheduled a time, like it was a half a day. And I got bagels and cream cheese, which is nothing like baklava. Not at all. So in any event, in December, Colleen?
It looks the 15th might work.
15th?
That's
Saturday?
Saturday.
Yep.
Are you looking at Saturdays?
Yes, that's fine.
Oh, I have
Perfect.
more opening if we're not on a Saturday.
15th is a Sunday, isn't it?
Oh,
Would it be
No,
possible?
I
No.
got Saturday.
In 2019, it's a Sunday. That's I did the same thing.
Somebody's, Connie, did you have a
Yeah,
question?
15, I mean, with holidays, I'm out of town that day.
Okay.
Okay.
I think because we're not looking at a 4-hour meeting, and if we're looking at a 2-hour meeting, I would prefer a weeknight.
Okay.
Not Wednesday through Sunday, because those tend to be the busier, more planned days and stuff in December than Mondays and Tuesdays. Sometimes
Sure.
Wednesdays aren't bad. Might
So you're
hit more
proposing
people's-
Mondays or Tuesday?
Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays.
10th, 11th, 12th?
11th
You're
is
gonna wanna be off of council Mondays.
No,
11,
Tuesday the
12.
11th.
So Tuesdays and Wednesdays, let's narrow that
Why
down.
does it matter about council? Oh, for Vanita's time?
No,
Oh, for,
Really?
well,
Oh, all right,
Our
exactly.
liaison.
Yeah.
We're not used to having a long time.
Just curious, I mean, you are meeting down here tonight, I mean, is it not preferred to have these meetings in the basement? I mean,
We
No,
could,
let's
we've met,
you
Yeah.
just,
go ahead.
we've met at a library before,
okay.
just because for the expanded time. But we can meet wherever Vanita arranges us to meet.
Yeah.
And
But I like the ideas that the commissioners are bringing up and the ideas behind selecting the dates. There's obviously a lot of thought going into it, and so, yeah, it's good to hash that out now. I would just say try to, because of the ordinance and the requirement for a plan to come forth, I would take advantage of the opportunity right now with new council members to have a plan and not necessarily just roll over what we had last year, but really, you're gonna wanna do some adjusting to it, so we can get something, more off the ground.
Just to clarify, we're talking about next month, is that correct?
that's right, December,
Somebody said 19.
a Tuesday or a Wednesday, 2 hours in the evening after 5 o'clock. Is that right, Connie?
Yes.
So
How
the-
about
Okay.
the 11th?
the 11th.
How about the
11th looks
11th?
great.
Is there any objection to the 11th? Does anyone have an objection to the 11th? So we're looking at something around between 5 and 7 or 6 and 8, Vanita, and wherever, Craig's office?
That's fine.
And,
No.
and
You're a little
while,
cramped,
and
but
while
we
2
can-
hours seems about right, if we were to run over, I think that would be
Yeah,
okay.
if we had
Yeah.
the space, yeah.
You want to schedule it for 3, and if we plan early, so 3 hours on the 11th in the evening,
So 5 to 8,
5 to 8.
the downtown library or here or wherever.
5 to 8, are we bringing in dinner then, or?
No, we are not bringing in dinner.
I will be then.
Well, then
That's
you
fine,
can,
that's
you can
acceptable.
purchase it at Jerusalem Garden.
Yes. Yeah, me too.
That's enough tonight. It's all right. I forgive you, man. I won. It's okay. I'm gonna be nice.
No, I love your food.
I know, but I wish you would have voted for me, man. It's like,
Well,
I think this is a time of healing.
yes,
I think we need to move on.
yes,
What's done is done, at least for the moment, so.
exactly, exactly.
So we have a date.
We have a date.
Yes, Benita will tell us where.
I
So-
like it.
Could it
11?
possibly be 6 to 9 so people could
Yeah.
eat after work?
Yep,
And
Sure.
remember, all these dates are gonna be tentative because
Sure.
I need to find a location for all of
Right,
them,
and
Yep.
So should we give her a backup, like
So the 11th or the 12th that week,
Okay.
or
6 to 9, try it.
or potentially even the following week, the 18th and 19th?
No, I think I had something on
Yeah.
those.
Anyone have a
Yeah,
conflict
no, I think Colleen does.
I'm
on
not
either the 11th and 12th or the 18th and 19th? Any of those days conflict with anyone?
No.
Okay,
So, 4 days, why don't you try it between 6 and 9, Vanita? That gives everyone a chance to. Okay, and that will then be a part of our meeting schedule, that will be added to it?
No,
No, it will not, that's what I
because
said.
it's a 19th meeting schedule and that's an 18th meeting.
not part of our, this is next year's that we, this is.
Oh,
this
that's
year's.
right, that's right, I'm so sorry, right. This is, we're talking about next month?
But it will be posted on the
It will be
website.
posted as
Yes.
a special meeting.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't think we've accepted this meeting notice yet, right? Didn't you ask about, or have we voted on this meeting notice?
No.
Okay, so is there any question about this meeting notice and the changes that we have made? We have a motion and a second, and is there any more discussion before we vote? All those in favor of the meeting schedule for the Art Commission next year, as amended, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? We have a meeting schedule. Do you want to vote on the retreat and give all those dates at least, so we'll have some action? So is there a motion to schedule a retreat next month in December?
On one of the 4 dates mentioned.
Yes. It's moved by Commissioner Mexicott and seconded by Commissioner Brown. Any discussion on what we have talked about, have discussed earlier? Therefore, all those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, so we have a retreat on that particular date, and that's all good. The next item on the agenda is old business, and there is none. But we do have some reports from staff, so I would like to turn this over to Mr. Hoopy, and you can go through this at your will.
As current members of, previous members of the Art Commission knows, we have a damaged panel on the winds on Stadium Bridge. Now we have a second damaged panel. Staff has reached out to staff first looked for seeing if we could find production facilities in the United States that would accommodate the production of that glass, and we haven't. We have a PO out now for the replacement 2 panels. They are produced in Germany. I look at Venita. She handled the PO. It's in Germany. And then they will be shipped over by boat. So we will probably be looking at a spring replacement of those 2 panels. So, but we are following up and replacing them.
Is the damage, does it appear to be vandalism? Or
Yes.
It is. They didn't just fail, it was.
No. Impact.
Is it correct to say that the reason that that it has required all of this work on the part of staff is so that the panels will be consistent?
Yes.
So that it's a
We could have them made in the United States, but they would not be of the same glass and quality of work. And so we are going back to.
They wouldn't look alike. They wouldn't be
Yeah.
consistent with
So
what's
that we're
already
going
out there.
back. But that is in process.
So they're getting made by the same place that made the original ones that the artist
Yes,
worked with?
yes.
Yeah.
Is there any questions on this particular issue?
The cost?
It's around 10,000.
And it comes out of whose pockets?
It is coming out of, is some residual funding left from the original project, so we are using the residual art funding for that.
And where in the area was it damaged? Is it under the bridge or on top of the bridge?
The one is on top of the bridge, and I think the second one is under.
And is this the first time it's been damaged, or has it been damaged?
Well, the one on the top of the bridge was damaged last year at after the Ohio State game.
Has the university been asked to contribute to?
No, we can ask.
I think we should.
Is there surveillance around those?
No.
City surveillance at all?
No.
I mean, if it's gonna happen on those kind of activities, they should take up.
Yeah,
and pay
we
for it.
have been previously directed on other items not related to art, but related to security of facilities, that our cameras only observe the facility and not the general public by city council.
So in order to capture this artwork, you would in effect be capturing the people as well, which is not within the limits that were
But
set.
not within the guidelines we've been given previously, their direction.
I
But
don't,
understand that was years ago, before the prevalence of the great number of cameras that are out in the world today.
And
So-
the new ones that are being made, is there any adjustments to them so that this may be prevented, or is there even a option?
I'm not aware of an option. We're making them
Just the
to the
same way.
original spec.
Commissioner Mexico.
The land on which they sit, who owns it?
We do. I shouldn't say that we do. It is public right-of-way. Public right-of-way is managed by the city for the benefit of the public.
I might also add that
That's
my
something for,
understanding is that they are laminated
Yes.
so that they wouldn't shatter and hurt someone.
They
It's
don't.
kind of like a
If
windshield.
you look at it, you can see it. It's got crazing through it.
And it is difficult to identify, I think, except in particular light. However, it is an asset of the city. We would be remiss not to have the city's assets be in as good a condition as everything else. If this is a challenge and I don't think it's bulletproof, but I think it's a safety glass of sort. Are there any other? But I do think that a council member elect Ramwali is appropriate in asking what could it hurt.
It doesn't hurt at all.
For cameras?
No,
No,
for
I'm
U of
talking
M.
about to ask U of
Oh,
M.
yes, I think we need to, if it's that, those
You
connections.
will understand that when we built the bridges, the U contributed zero. In fact, they charged us land rent so we could have laydown space to build the bridges.
Yeah, I think, we need.
You can tell it
we need-
sort of sits poorly
it's
with
just,
me.
I'm sure this is not gonna be vandalized. I mean, if it does get vandalized, the probabilities are quite high. It's on, event days.
Yep.
So it's not our citizens, nor, it's other people who are doing this vandalism.
We could at least make the U of M
Oh,
aware.
I'll gladly make the ask, not a problem.
And have they done that before?
No. As I said, they charged us to
But
build the
you're willing
bridges.
to ask?
Oh, more
You have
than,
okay, great.
I will be delighted to ask.
Okay, cool.
Commissioner Mexico.
this also begs the question about insurance. So is this covered at all by?
We are
police or-
self-insured. Our deductible is 50,000, I believe.
And so this falls well under that, of course.
Yes.
How do you have a deductible if you're self-insured?
Oh, you still do.
Catastrophic insurance.
No, that's above that even.
Oh.
We are self-insured, I don't know if it's to $1 million or $2 million, we're catastrophically insured above that, and 50,000, it comes out of the operating unit that suffered it.
Oh, okay.
One
Commissioner
question,
Brown.
and I know because this is the second time you've replaced it, you probably have gone through this, but there literally isn't anyone in the United
We
States.
have not found
Has,
anybody.
has the artist, have you contacted the
Yes,
artist
we are
with any
working with
attempt
her. We're working
to
with
find
her.
someone?
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems
It's a
odd.
little mind-boggling
Well,
that
it's
the
the
glass,
size, it's the size of the
etch
panels.
and the,
It's the size of the panels, I believe, is the issue.
And there is somewhat of a
there's a tint to them, there's a
tint
color.
and
yeah.
a design within that glass that makes it more
Oh,
difficult.
that's,
Yeah.
the design is laminated in.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
We do have a copy of the design, a digital copy of the
Yes.
design. They have given it to us.
Yep.
So if
Yeah.
Craig wants to do it in his garage, we can do it. It's just not going to
My
look.
garage is not big enough.
It's just not going to look like the glass that's up there.
I understand that the glass has an appearance to it, but I am also wondering from standing on a sidewalk with it up, what the visibility and if there's really a color change, I don't know,
Seems if matching's the issue, it'd be more efficient just to throw rock at all the other ones. I mean,
I think it would
it's
be more
not
expensive.
unsafe.
It'd be more
They would all
expensive.
match.
Oh,
And they
not
would be
replace
protected,
it,
and they'd be
not
protected
replace it.
from future vandalism because.
Well, how's the
Again,
games coming
thinking
out?
outside the
I'm
box.
sorry, this is just the way a sidewalk artist thinks. Just embrace disruption, man.
Don't encourage.
Make
I'm
them
just
the
saying.
same. It sounds crazy, but I don't think anything would be out of the, but you
I
would
think
go
the cracks
before
are quite
council and propose it, would
All
you?
right. Yeah, sure.
No.
They might let you
I'll go right now.
Anyone else?
Vanita had a comment.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you ever had the conversation of at some point, the commission actually given serious thought to something like this happening again, and what would be the determination. I know that the engineer has had some thoughts about replacing a third. How many times do we replace the glass?
Can we move these? So, I mean, it seems like, is this a piece of work that can be moved to
They
a safer?
they are substantial.
You've got big footings and.
As I
costs you,
remember, the
it's not-
foundations alone underneath these ran, it was short of 6 figures for the foundations.
But yeah, this is an issue that, it's gonna
Well,
keep happening.
the bigger, to me, the bigger learning experience on this is as we pick art in the future, think of the durability.
And where you're buying your stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and not just durability, but where
Where it's
replacements
made.
would come from.
Yeah.
We've always thought about
Right.
durability.
Right.
Yeah, I
It
think
sounded really durable.
the artist said it was very good.
Seems best to assume it's going to break and have a plan.
The question about cameras came up, but I think it was related to city cameras. I wonder if it's so close to university property, if they have cameras that cover that scope.
I can ask.
And when you have that
I know there's
conversation.
I know there's cameras around the stadium and they are very good camera system around the stadium. I don't know where it extends to.
It'd be good to know for the future if anything did
no.
happen.
As I say, I can ask.
Yeah.
I might add that Chrysler Arena has an entire glass front all around it. They have thousands of people in there, and I doubt if any of that has been replaced.
But it probably can be replaced with something local.
That even if it is replaced with something local, I think the big charge to this is the transportation. Is that right, Mr. Hoopy? The cost of
I don't know the breakdown.
that is
I would have to.
shipping it is substantial. So if we could, in fact, have it local, maybe David's idea is that if they are damaged again, we replace all of them locally. But this is a challenge, an issue for public art, and I think that we should think about it, and we should really weigh in and give our advice to council as to what do we think that makes sense for the city, for the cost, for public art, moving forward, and those kinds of things.
Well, and I respect that. I believe that Craig's team has done their due diligence and has looked and tried to find somewhere that does it. It's not only a match of the glass, but it's also having the big enough printer, is my understanding, and there isn't one.
They refer to the, it
Etching.
is the bed, the bed that it's done
Bed
on.
that it's
I
done on.
don't necessarily know what that means, but the unit has to have a big enough bed to accommodate that piece of glass.
Yeah.
Are there any more?
And
Good
I mean,
point.
if it happens again, then I'm sure that they'll do their due diligence to try to find something again, because maybe in the meantime something will be made here that can do it. But
Going on,
Please.
the Jewett Memorial Chair update. The Detroit Street project is moving forward. As part of that project, they are prepping a landing space for the chairs, and the chairs will be relocated as part of that project. I don't know, did they get copies of this, Vanita?
Just had them before,
Yeah, I'll just
folks just
pass some out.
reminder.
Where they're going is, I'll just point it out here. They're right there on that. So,
What he's talking about are the large Adirondack chairs that are on the west side of the farmer's market area right now. And we'll be moving back over to the east side, where
they're
they're originally
hard
planned
to
to
see
go.
on the overall view, but they're going in, I'll point
They're
here.
off the map where they are.
No, they are going in,
And they're going.
in
Here?
right there. On your map, you'll see the two little chairs,
Right where Detroit Street and
yeah, just.
Fifth Avenue cross, basically.
Just to give a little background regarding this, is that the Art Commission led a funding for these chairs. It cost about $60,000. And that a part of the funding was an assertion that the chairs would be placed where Mr. Jewett had
Near
his,
his fake booth,
near his fake booth, his
favorite.
favored booth, sorry. That some of the donors took that literally, and that they feel that they donated money under those conditions. When the market people met, said, well, you know, you can't have it by the booth, and you can't, so this chair kind of got pushed around. It ended up temporarily installed by the administration building with the assurance of the donors that it would be eventually placed nearest the stall that could, as it could be. That this reconstruction of Detroit Street allowed for that to happen. So a part of this location is very important to make, to honor the kind of commitment that was made for these donors. That's a part of the calculus of this. The challenge of that is that these are metal chairs and they heat up when the sun is on them. So the suggestion was, couldn't we get an umbrella, or, and I'm not sure where that is.
Well, actually, you'll see that they are,
Shade sail or something?
yeah, they are not a shade sail. They are actually just north of the landscape
Trees.
trees.
So the trees.
They moved landscaping trees next to the chairs.
So what seems like something very simple to honor one of our local artists is a bit complicated. But the point is, it's all coming into place. And I'm sure that it's mentioned here that Maggie Jewett is reviewing the wording of the plaque,
Yes.
which is important because Maggie Jewett is Mr. Jewett's widow, is that correct, or daughter? One of the two. Widow. So, good work. This has
Vanita,
been
that's Vanita's
long,
work. so-
long coming. We might want to, is there going to be an unveiling of this at some particular point?
We might want to do it in the spring. The project will be done late fall, early winter. It might not be the best weather. And I don't know if the trees would be planted yet at that time.
Will people stick to them in the cold weather?
I don't know if they've stuck to them already. They've been there for what,
Do you
2
have to tell
winters?
people not to
Don't
lick
lick
them?
them.
2 winters?
So looking
Don't
forward to that.
don't wear your shorts in the winter and then sit down on them.
And I mean, not licking the artwork seems to be a given, but perhaps.
That's
I think
closed-minded.
is John's question,
Yeah.
we should probably be following up with all the donors just to, once they're moved, to let them know it's been moved and
Yeah,
finalized
we
and all
can do-
that. Do
we
we
can do
still
that.
have their contact
Yes.
information? You
We
still
have
it, right?
a mailing
Should
list.
have it.
We have everything, we'll just send out a general notification. We thought about doing a citywide communication piece to everybody to let them know that the chairs have been moved, they've been put in place.
Great.
And I may not have all of the donors' email information to be
Yeah.
able to do
We
that.
don't, we haven't, we have the original mailing list, emails list, but we're not curating them, so to speak, and making changes, so they'll be somewhat out of sync.
Something, yeah, updated.
Some of the donations were $1, $5. We don't have names for those. It was the passing the hat. Marcia Chamberlain stood there on many market Saturdays. You might, however, want to have a very brief, event that our new chair could say a few words or not. But it would be an event to celebrate.
We will announce when they are moved.
At the very least, we'll have a report from staff at one of our meetings about it,
Yeah.
right? So,
Absolutely.
On the art inventory, Vanita has been working diligently at it. It is reaching the point where it is consuming more of her time and effort than maybe we should be putting into it, but it doesn't mean we're not going to. What we are looking at is Vanita has developed a potential job description that we will share with HR, and we would be looking to hire 3 or 4 months student for that to push it forward, and so we can, instead of doing it painfully in dribs and drabs, hopefully we can get it done quicker.
focused effort on
Yes, focused effort. And do you want to talk about the ultimate, how it will be presented?
Ultimately, I'm not quite sure about this, and Allison will certainly help me figure this out. The Michigan Arts tours that we were currently using, they are having some updates to their program. And it's my thought that through city IT, that an actual story map through our city program would be a better idea individually for our art here within the city. So we would be looking for this person to assist with developing the story map, actually taking new photos, developing the condition, maintenance, everything included as part of this. Still working on it.
I think that's excellent, because I'm on the committee with Allison. Part of it is promoting the art, and the first part of promoting the art is to know what art we have to promote.
And finding it all.
And finding the art. And, but in addition, that I think it's important for the council to know that the city owns over $2 million worth of art. This is a city asset. And I think that we are hoping that that staff and council treat it and recognize it as an asset. That just like you would identify an inventory of dump trucks and computers and everything else, this is a cultural asset, but it's also a physical asset that requires some kind of inventory and recognizing that some of these pieces need a maintenance schedule. And the first part of that is identifying the inventory, then identifying how it got collected, what the actual cost is of it, what are the annual maintenance regimens needed for it, does this have a useful life, and what should be done. That all begins with at least a simple list. Separate from that is the promotion part of it. So the promotion pulls off of that list and either creates maps or creates all kinds of other things. So to give some context to why this inventory is so important, and I totally applaud Vanita for what you have done, and we kind of, Allison and I, threw this at you just a month or two ago. So you've been able to collect, I think right now, well over 60 or 70 artworks. You would not think of that, but there are a lot of paintings and prints that are in various centers around the city. And this is all artwork. This is all a city asset. You know, some of it is worth more than others. So we want to at least encourage staff to get this inventory together, and then we refine this inventory. That's some background. So I applaud it, and I applaud you for finding somebody that can be dedicated to do that.
She's going to find it. All I did was rattle the corners of the pockets to find enough loose change.
Loose change is I think, key to a lot of things in the city. So, yes.
You have a committee that's working on this whole project, is that right?
Promotion.
Promotion. I have suggestions for promotion if that's something for
Join the
apps,
committee.
apps that you could
You
partner
wanna
with.
join the committee?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I
It's
possibly, let
definitely
me do
something we
that.
can talk about at the
Yeah.
retreat too, because that's
Yeah.
part of what the retreat would be, is
Yes.
talking about.
There
what
are,
each of the
there are
committees are
multiple
doing.
entities working on collecting and wayfinding in terms of art and public art in our city already that we should partner with.
Exactly.
Excellent, excellent. Because part of promoting the art is, even though it is not owned by or commissioned by the city, we consider it a part of the visual culture of the community. So,
Definitely.
and it should be a part not of the inventory we're talking about, but certainly of the promotion of the creative spaces, even if it's a privately owned, a bank put something out, or Charles McGee's, Spirit of Ann Arbor, or if they ever do a mural by the Michigan Theater, a big, wonderful mural that inspires people, that's certainly something that should be on that list. So I will reach out to you
Good.
for those kinds of things. Any other?
That's the end of mine.
That's the end of, so page 2, and now for K-Site. Remember that? No? Okay. We have the next item on the reports from committees. The nominating committee, I think, has made their report. The CIP committee, we have some material. David, would you like to just give some context for the material?
Sure. Like the annual plan that John mentioned we're supposed to do every year, there are a few things that the CIP committee does that are supposed to be at least kind of reviewed and renewed every year, and theoretically go to council. The biggest one of those is the reviewing the capital improvements plan of the city and suggesting which projects might be suitable for public art, and that will start up in December when the new capital improvements plan, or CIP, is developed. The other two things that we also have done plans for is, first of all, how we go about picking projects from the CIP to potentially get public art. And then the third thing would be recommendations on selections of public art and public artists. And so there's a document in here which is an update to the recommendations for the art selection process that we did about a year ago. The committee did not have any updates to the recommendations on selections of CIP projects. That was a document that just said how we go through the CIP and weed out the projects that seem inappropriate for public art and which projects seem appropriate. We didn't have any changes to that one. But this one, there were a few changes. Listening to our discussion today, I think we probably want to add a comment about considering the difficulty of repairs based on the discussion about the stadium artwork. The other thing with this is they're fairly minor comments. We just, after we developed this and as our commission agenda was being put together, we found out that after the more recent stadium artwork along the retaining wall was done, the Art Commission had a follow-up report with some recommendations of their own for the next round of, or Art Center, yeah. Art Center had some recommendations of their own for the next round of selections. So we're trying to gather some information about that. So we may want to hold off on this until we get that information and come back with a fully updated report, unless anyone feels strongly about moving forward with this at this point.
I think it's smart to pull this off, because what happens, this gets attached to our agenda, our minutes, and goes to council. So I would rather have a complete and more accurate document to council than to change it. Part of, I sent around, everyone received a report that Vanita sent regarding the questions that I had asked over that retaining wall. The particular document that was generated by the Art Center was an after the fact of what should be done better. We just were aware of this when Vanita collected that information. David has asked to be able to meet with the Art Center to discuss that in more detail, which he's going to be scheduling a one-on-one with those folks soon. And I think part of what he will talk about might be incorporated into this document. So I would recommend that your committee pull this off of our agenda to approve it and until the next, until you have a more complete document.
Yeah. And from what we know of the Art Center's recommendations, they seem to be similar to what we were already recommending for revisions. So I think we're all kind of on the same page. We just want to find out a little bit more of their background, because they've actually been through the process directly, and we're a little bit secondhand from
And
that.
to be clear for new commissioners and for audience members, APAC doesn't choose the art. There is a committee that's run by a consultant that's hired by the city that has people who come choose the art, so we're not the
You may have
choosers.
a member sit on it.
We may have a member sit on it and be a part of it, but it's not APAC that runs the selection committee. So therefore, talking to someone who ran the selection committee is important.
It is, and in the past, we had managed the selection process, but we aren't full-time and paid, and there isn't dedicated staff that has that ability. And so we actually recommended to the staff they outsource that. And this is a part of the process. This is one of the first that they've outsourced, so we want to be strategic advisors and review what went right and what could be improved. So part of what we're doing here is viewing what happened and suggesting improvements to it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, do.
Are we talking about the installation on Stadium, the
Retaining wall.
the
11.
the 11?
Yeah.
Okay. And so that was the only time that this process had been used. Is there other installations at this same process?
The manhole covers,
Okay.
that the Manchester Water Tower was done in-house. It was not done by this body, but staff did it. We advised, we offered a person to sit on there, but we did not administer it. So those were the three, I think, that were under this new kind of process that.
Power art.
And Power Art,
But Power Art is being done by
Arts Alliance.
it's
It's not contracted
It's
from
not
the
coming
city.
out of this committee.
It's the DDA.
It's the
not mine.
DDA doing it. So it's outside of this group.
but money that actually was a part that's been commissioned by the city. In other words, it goes to council. So the staff recommends a consultant, in this case, the Art Center, because they have the expertise, that they have the full-time folks, and they are learning how to do this. And we are providing oversight, and we're also offering one of our folks to be on their task force that.
But I mean, with all due respect, I know everyone's trying to do their best, and no one's. That became an utter failure for us, you know, and you know, it's really hard for me when I'm knocking on doors to ask for money for these things, even though I believe in the funding for the arts. So.
No, I'm just, no, I mean, please.
So I mean, there was, I will. Unfortunately, I have to disagree, and I don't want to be combative or anything. But you know, you said they had the expertise, and I think I'm missing something somewhere, because it wasn't done, and I think we can all agree, to what we had expected. So there were some
I have
issues.
to respectfully disagree.
Yeah, and I'm
They
gonna go
delivered exactly what their contract required.
Because,
Maybe
I
the Art Center
mean, you know better than I do, so I
The
have to
Art Center
understand, I have
and
to
the Art
definitely
Center
agree with what
and-
you're saying.
The Art Center and the artist delivered what was agreed to.
but there was supposed to be colors and changes, and it doesn't look like it was rendered in the
I don't
drawing.
think anyone locally has enough experience to know exactly how to do this perfectly, and that's why we're revising our recommendations to try to capture the things that nobody thought about.
I just feel like this body right here has, I mean, you guys have great minds, and why aren't you part of the
But
selection committee?
understand, these are all volunteers. They are not full-time staff, and
Yeah.
it takes full-time staff to manage it. As the city, we are not funded for full-time staff.
Right, but
Yeah, the
just,
selection process of selecting artwork and working with an artist through that entire process is a very
yeah,
time-consuming
right,
process.
yeah.
Which is why the Art Center was paid, contracted to do that work.
Okay,
We within this body don't have those hours.
so
And the city doesn't have the capacity to hire someone on to do that full-time.
why
which is
did
why we
that
were
particular
contracted.
project just was a thud? Like, why did they just totally?
All due
like-
respect, that's your opinion. A
Yeah.
lot of people share your opinion, a lot of people don't, so.
I can say, Ollie, that I probably share your opinion more than I don't. But the challenge is,
I don't wanna make it personal.
no, it's not about personal because,
And I know art's subjective, and, you know, it's all that.
well, the point is there a way that the process could be improved to get a better outcome?
Yes.
And that's what we're trying to look at.
Cool.
Is there a way that it could be improved? We do not want to micromanage. We do not want to say our aesthetic judgment is better than, that is wrong. That it is a mistake for our citizen volunteers to take that on without the adequate staff support. That's clear. I've witnessed that happening, and it does not work well at all. So the idea of identifying community organizations that may not have the chops at the moment, but they need to get the chops. We need to at least find those and help them, scaffold them to develop competencies. That is really the best way forward. We don't want to bring an outsider into our community to run things. We have it right here. We need to find a way, and I, for one, totally agree with you, and I can say that there are a lot of commissioners that find that underwhelming is a polite word. And we are thinking about, can it be fixed? It is really, it's very difficult to fix something that's already there. What we can do, however, is advise on the process on how it could achieve a better outcome. We don't know that it will, but at least we're trying to do that.
Well, so some of the things that the Art Center said in their feedback was to be involved during the installation process. They thought maybe the people who are doing the work to find the artist should also be involved in the installation process. They weren't in this case. So potentially that could have been a way that they could have been more involved, seeing how it was coming about, asked questions to the artist, maybe made adjustments during the installation that could have resulted in something different. I don't know. But so those are some of the things that we're exploring as ways to see, could this have resulted in a better outcome?
Our committee actually has a specific, so this is the CIP committee. So under working with artists, bullet 3, we added a D that says that when you are working with artists, you should keep in mind that they may be communicating the most optimistic vision of what their project might be, and that you have to be, we specifically say, they may include optimistic or even unrealistic suggestions about aspects such as reflections from surrounding light and shadow and other interactions with the environment, and independent efforts should be made to confirm whether such representations are realistic for the context. So we're trying to put that right in, so we are learning from this process, I think, is the bottom line.
And we want to give you advice, strategic advice, staff, strategic advice, you know, and the consultant. Maybe we need to be more involved with the consultant. I, for one, would rather not. I would rather build the competency within staff so that staff can negotiate with the consultant and that can all work. We can be strategic advisors at the beginning. That's the smart kind of way. We don't have the time, and those that do have the time, you're not going to want them to manage a project like that.
But isn't the question, I think part of the question though that the whole community has looked at is who decides what it is and then how is that decided? And are there regular processes and procedures that involve feedback from all kinds of people and public so people have a say on it? And then how do you tweak it to make it work? It's not,
And I think that's what David.
Yeah, it's just- it's-
Learning as we go forward.
Oh, I appreciate
And
the
so who
efforts.
is-
I mean,
yeah.
that's a huge,
yeah, who
that's
is
a lot
that?
to
Who's the
corral.
us?
It's-
Yeah.
And
what do you
everybody's
do?
afraid to be tagged with it. I don't know, there are very few people that say, God, that is just the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
I don't think we should,
Yeah,
I don't
I mean,
think
I-
we
yeah.
should, I don't think we should talk, because there's a lot of aesthetic judgment that goes into a lot of things, and I don't know if we should be judging that. I think we can respond as a commission to what people are saying or what we see can improve it and stuff, but there are broader, there's hard to find something that everybody gets excited about. And we can say more people or less people are excited about things, but it's very hard to find an art piece that everybody thinks is a piece of art, and they're glad they put money into it and it's there. So how do you manage that whole big thing?
Very good
So
points.
will you await David's report out in
What's that?
January?
Wait, David,
solves it all.
you were saying something, were you?
No, David's report, he's gonna meet with the
After you talk to
the Art Center and he'll,
Yeah,
he'll,
committee will meet in December and refine this
and he'll report out in
bring
January.
back a new one.
So you are pulling this
Yes.
off, and you will amend it and bring it back at our next meeting.
Jonah had a question.
Any questions? Yes.
Jonah had a
So point
Jonah.
of clarification regarding the Art Center, is there like a future contract with them that they are going to be doing selections for future projects as well?
No,
Not
not
this
yet, not yet.
Not yet.
We have been doing those as art projects come up. There has been discussion about doing, instead of it on a by project basis, doing it on a longer term than by project basis. Yet to be determined, and it's gonna be part of your group recommendation.
Is that the
whether-
only option?
No, I
No,
was gonna say,
there's
but
others.
to clarify though, they are involved in, for instance, up in council chambers, don't they do the,
But that's the rotation, that is a, how many year contract, Anita?
Just 1 year, I
Just
think.
1 year, so it'll be
And
up.
I think it's up. The question is, reviewing, did it work, and should it be continued? But my understanding is that whatever is decided, that you're gonna include us in the
Oh,
loop.
yeah, you got to. We have,
So
Yeah.
whether it's
I would
outsourced,
not do it any other way.
And
Whether-
either way, it would be an RFP for lots of different organizations to apply, including the Art Center and others, the Arts
It would
Alliance,
be-
whoever wanted to
When
potentially.
we seek those services, that we go out for public to seek the services. It's not, I
And the
walk
idea
up to
behind
John
that,
and
you know, is-
John's group and say, John, I need you to do this for me. No.
Right. One of the things that we've found it would be useful is if the artists were involved earlier on in the process, you know, before we've got a wall that's going up, you know, maybe with the cement and, you know, design phase. And we can't get them in on the design phase when we're doing the call for the contractor after the fact. So if we have them involved earlier, we can potentially get the artists involved earlier and have all that kind of be more synchronized and.
the Fish on First and Kingsley was where the artist actually got involved as it was planned. This particular project, the art ended up being applied after that wall was designed.
Was Brian Bush present for the installation?
He
He did
installed
it.
He did the
He came and did
installation.
it, yep.
Okay.
But I think the Art Center is recommending that the contractor, them, be more involved in that installation and seeing how it's happening, that, you know,
Give
that,
feedback during.
that, you know, maybe, you know, it could be something as simple as the color, that background color on that wall. It doesn't, I don't think, do that much justice, and I don't know whether that could have been changed before or not. But the point is that a lot of this is a learning process, and that we need to find a way of handling these projects so that, first of all, it's transparent, everyone knows what we're doing, everyone has a chance to think about it, and we improve it at each stage. So the artwork, the more stakeholders we have involved in it, it doesn't look like just 5 people made the decision on it. And so I think that's all going to be a part of David's discussion with the Arts Center to find best practices moving forward, to make a recommendation, and we will have that at the next meeting.
Can I just ask one more question?
Do
I'm
it.
sorry, this is all going backwards, but did they do public input or
Yes.
such?
Yes, there were
And a
lot of
public
steps
vote,
of that.
yeah.
A public vote?
A public
And
polling.
meetings and-
Polling.
Public
Ah.
polling, yeah,
It's
there's
a
public
public
polling,
polling.
public polling.
There were 3 finalists,
Okay,
and that went to public polling.
thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, any other you have a question?
No, I'm
I don't-
suggesting we move on so we get.
The last thing I would say, obviously, half of you are new enough to the committee that you didn't see this last year, so if you have any comments or concerns or anything, please let one of the committee members know,
Okay,
Connie,
good.
Colleen, or myself,
Good, good.
because we certainly have time to.
Oh,
find it.
definitely.
So the promotions and marketing committee, it's Allison or myself?
Yeah, we have very little to update because, as you know, we went to the website to update it, make sure all of our work was on there and all the information was up to date, and realized we don't know all of our work. We don't have an inventory, so we worked with Vanita. She's been doing that inventory. Part of that committee, we were gonna make sure all of our works had acknowledgements on them and were noted as city projects. But again, we need to know which projects we have to figure out which ones need plates and things like that. So we're kind of on hold until we've got this inventory together and we can move forward from that point.
Well, we are moving forward. The city is going to hire some folks, and once that list comes about, we can then sort of seriously make some recommendations.
I don't want to clip your wings too much, but you said some folks. It is a folk.
A folk. One,
Part-time folks, half a folk.
half a folk.
Is there a
Once
time frame associated with that?
It would be in the summer. Typically, we hire college or post-high school students.
Some of that work's gonna be going around to taking pictures of the pieces and
Yeah.
inventory, so it's nice to do that when it's not.
So when I say summer, I think Vanita's looking at advertising the position March-ish timeframe.
April start.
I want to
So
do
maybe
work
the
on it
youth
before
group might
summer.
have some people that
So-
might go.
Once I am no longer chair, I'm going to have a little more time, and I can take this on and give some ideas.
You should apply for the job.
Well, that was my next question, is that something that we're eligible to do that work, or no?
If
Pardon?
you're interested when the position is posted, you are most free to apply for it.
Okay.
It
It's gonna be a
basically is
position.
taking photographs. It's going out
Oh,
and
it's gonna be a lot more than that.
It's more than that.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, it's inventory.
As Vanita explained earlier, it's gonna be a lot more than that, and putting together that mapping system and all that.
digging
data.
through
A
it.
story map.
Yes.
Yes.
Any questions about the promotions marketing committee? Youth involvement committee, Commissioner Brown.
Here we are. Deb and I sat down with Vanita and Craig, probably about a month ago. Yeah, thank you. They had obviously seen our presentation on our thoughts on how to get youth involved in the art community and what it means to be a commissioner and serving on boards and commissions and also having a voice in what's happening. Hoping to improve the demographic too of people who are included in art conversations so that that's moving in a younger direction as well. So I did an update on the document that we submitted to you guys in red that just sort of got kind of the highlights of that. But what I summarized is all the hurdles that we anticipated, yes, are there, that it is going to take a while to put things in place, but the staff is being very helpful with how do we get the word out, how can we do links to things, and how can we communicate, and how can we grow a program that actually gets youth commissioners. The time frame, I was optimistic with what I thought that could happen with. So we want to add something to it and kind of switch this up a little bit, and that's what we'd like your comment on. We'd like to have a two-pronged approach. We'd like to still do the youth commissioner and have their involvement the way we talked about, but we want to grow those people who would be interested at the start, and something that we can do faster is to have some activities that are youth-centered, youth-oriented, something easy for them to do. We talked about maybe a first, this is where Deb is masterful with her background of having a first easy step with things that we already have, because I was trying to think of cool events where we make things and everybody would like this. And she said, well, we have a lot of stuff around. We've got a lot of art. What if we put people in those positions and have them find this art? Maybe they photograph it, maybe they write about it, maybe we can work with a teacher who can use these things as an assignment. Maybe we can help them to look at the artwork differently. Not that we show them how to do it, but what if they light it up? We talked about what if they light it up at night? What if they use flashlights? What if we can get them lit in a different way? Shadows, reflections, the art changes character, and get youth to look at it differently, post photos on Instagram, have a contest, do something that makes it quick and easy for them to respond to what they see in their environment already. And then what that next step, we don't know. We have two new committee members, and welcome all your ideas. I put down some of the stuff that we brainstormed about, but we want to think of what that would be, and we'd like it to happen mid-next year, before school is let out, so people have a chance to be a part of it. Anything to add?
Just a couple of things. One is that, thinking about the timeline as sort of a 2-year building process, I think, rather than 1 year, especially as it relates to our abilities to sort of update the website. It also, I think, dovetails really nicely with the mapping project, in that you want sort of people to recognize the art in their environment, and have students have response and reaction to that. Because I think that one of the things, and we just had a very interesting conversation about response and reaction to artworks. Imagine, maybe you don't want to, but imagine if we had actually used that one as our first case of thinking about youth response to something, and we might get a very different feeling for what that might come of that very subtle addition to the environment in terms of public art. So the 2-year timeline also dovetails nicely with a couple of other youth projects and commissioner type things that are going on, especially with public safety and a few other places. So we'll be able to tag along with that as well and learn from them as to how they incorporate youth into their commissioners as well. So I think that doing a couple of small things first, especially as it relates to the mapping project and that awareness project, I think will start to build that sort of set of youth, like we saw here tonight, that might participate and be interested, to start to build that cohort from whom we can start to develop other events and commission spots.
And they may want to help with mapping, be a part of those things.
They may very well want to be.
There's a lot of things that we can tie together that you can participate depending upon how you view art and how you see it.
We might even be able to build capacity for this one person that's there if they had a couple of other students that were interested in working with them as volunteers. So these are the kinds of things that, baby steps as we move up. But so that's what we're thinking.
So Neutral Zone's Board of Directors is 50% youth, and so our strategy is youth-adult partnerships at every level, whether it's committee or even chair and vice chair have a youth that they partner with. So there's a lot of strategies that we've been building over the last 2 decades to make that happen that I'd be happy to share.
That's fantastic.
And we offer trainings, in this style, and also are working with city government right now pretty closely to build a youth impact force.
Yeah, I think that there will be a lot of value in that, and I think that there was some discussion about how, I don't know if difficult is the right word, but how challenging it will be even to get that first youth commissioner to sort of break into the sort of commission sort of environment. And so I think that knowing that, there's that great end, if we had 50-50, 20 years or 10 years from now, that'd be fantastic. But, sort of how we can build that forward would be great.
Yeah. And how you guys have done it, and what's successful.
Because one of the
Kids that might be interested to start things too.
One of the things that we were hoping for as well was to have that sense of a mentoring relationship with one of the commissioners for any youth that we brought on as well. And I think that you have excellent programs probably in that regard.
I think this project is absolutely super, because to me what it does is build stakeholder value from the community. Once you have students are coming in, they're talking to their parents, they're talking to their neighbors, they're talking to, and public art isn't all that easy. I mean, it looks simple, like just pick something beautiful. Well, that's just not quite that simple. But in engaging students, it's a learning process. It's public policy. It's collective aesthetic, a shared collective aesthetic. That's very, very difficult. So I applaud.
To learn that it's okay not to always have a shared collective aesthetic. That there are going to be different views, but you still can coexist.
And maybe that shared maybe the shared aesthetic is diverse, like a patchwork quilt. That it's a lot of aesthetic. So it's not a corporate aesthetic. But these are the issues I think that really are important.
Well, we don't want to be telling them what they should think about art. We want to hear their thoughts and their feelings. It shouldn't be a one, way discussion.
I totally agree. So I applaud your effort. Are there any questions about what the committee's goals are?
I don't have questions. I have two things. One, the Art Center actually had youth on their panels when they were doing the selection process, so our contractors are doing that, and so they might actually have names to share with us of people who are interested in public art and have already been involved with those processes. And you guys have probably already thought of this, but if you haven't, add summer games, the Ann Arbor Library summer games, to your list of things to get involved with. That's a really robust program that lots of youth are involved in, and adults, that people get excited about and would be easy to kind of weave our way into as a way of promoting, talking
Mapping
about
public art and making it a game.
Well, and we had, John and I had a bit of a road show for a while, that we went out to the different quadrants and we're talking to people about art and what it could be and what was important to them in their community and what would be meaningful. And there were a number of places where we had nobody come, and there were a couple where we had a lot of kids come, and there were things they were excited about, but what wasn't successful is the ability to take the enthusiasm of those kids and actually translate it into things that they could see, that they could either participate in or feel like government, city, whatever, is also hearing my voice, and that's a part of it. So we're hoping to make that more of a reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the pictures could potentially end up on the website as our picture of our works.
Yeah.
And I think that that's part of it, is that, especially as we start getting this mapping done and more pieces maybe featured on the website, then you can actually raise awareness around a particular piece or a particular neighborhood or a particular effort. And it could be writing, or it could be photography, or it could be something like that. But again, it's making in response to public art.
And at the very least, they could raise our awareness of artwork. So they could present at our meetings and teach us a lot about what they're discovering. I love the model of the neutral zone, is presenting these mentors and mentees and connecting. So kudos to what you're doing. I think it parallels what David's committee is doing, and if we just have those two initiatives
Coming together to meet in the middle somehow, in the middle of 2 years from now, so.
it's great. Any other questions? So you do want your report to go forward? You don't need to make any adjustments to this report. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. That there's no need to vote on this. This is something the committee submits. It's now going to be attached, except for David's report, which he is pulling off. Any other questions? That completes our agenda, so I would welcome a motion to adjourn. Mr. Zinn moves to adjourn, and Mr. Copey seconds it. All those in favor of adjourning signify saying aye. All those opposed, we now stand adjourned. Thank you so much.